How's it going, everyone? And today we got some interesting news with Warner Brothers. Now, here's the thing. Warner Brothers has not been the greatest when it came to movies in the past few years or so. For one, a lot of flops they've had, especially in the DC area, mainly because it's been complicated how they want to make the movies, because they wanted to have a connected universe like Marvel, but of course they didn't have that connected universe because then things kind of changed. They got Henry Cavill back for Superman, but then he had to get fired for it because then James Gunn ended up being the lead and he wanted to change everything entirely and reboot it, which is understandable. But of course, they've been having all these issues, right? Not to mention their disaster with Ezra Miller, where Ezra Miller is a bit crazy, and of course some people boycotted the Flash movie because of it, because of Ezra Miller. But now we have a thing that is not new to Warner Brothers, and that is the movie Coyote versus Acne. It's a weird situation because this is no different here. Apparently, the movie was meant to come out and is completely finished, but they're shelving it and canceling it entirely. This is no new thing. They did the same with Batgirl. They had a movie that was completely finished. They were ready and done with it. It had Brendan Fraser, which was going to be one of his big comebacks. Of course, he got The Whale and got his comeback there, but he was going to have his big comeback for Batgirl and The Whale, and then they canceled it, right? And it was all, and what's even more messed up is, like, once again, it was all finished. It was all completely done, edited. They just had to set up a release date and release it to theaters, but they scrapped it because for tax write-off reasons. They did this again with a Scooby-Doo movie, which was apparently a movie completely finished, but they scrapped it for the right, like, as a tax write-off. And this is no different. They're scrapping this movie as a tax write-off as well. However, this movie's a little bit different because they did offer people to buy the movie and have people, like, stream it on their streaming services. However, and they've been getting offers by these people, but however, they aren't willing to actually sell it. And there's likely the reason is they're too embarrassed to, like, of the idea of if we do sell it to a service and it does really well, especially since everyone is upset about this movie being canceled, it will likely do well if we sold it to somewhere else. Then once that happens, it'll screw everyone over because it's just like, oh, okay, now we look like idiots because this movie is doing well in this service and we could have released it in theaters. Though, of course, if that's such a worry, why don't you just release the movie as a whole already? Don't scrap it, release the movie for people to see in theaters. People will be happy. You'll have a bunch of people going to see it now because at this point, this movie was almost scrapped and now people are going to jump to see it. And like I said, they were not accepting any offers that people were giving, and they were paying quite a bit of money to have this movie, or to have the movie on their streaming services. Netflix, Prime, I think even Disney Plus offered to, like, Disney tried to offer to pay for this too, and they just wouldn't allow it. And like I said, the reason is because they probably are worried that if it does do well, they're gonna look like idiots, right? Um, Regardless though, this this is getting really suspicious, and honestly, I think Warner Brothers should probably be investigated. The amount of movies that right now that they're canceling that are completely finished, and mind you, not slightly done or in production, then they cancel it, fully finished, are just being scrapped. It just doesn't. I feel like what they're doing here isn't inherently. It shouldn't be allowed. Really, it should be kind of like illegal to even do because it seems very exploitative. I think it's like they're doing this in order to be able to pay taxes, and not to mention, the heads of Warner Brothers who did this a lot mainly because have they wanted to have like $3 billion in brought back for them. Like they wanted to make $3 billion back or something like that. And mind you, this movie is, like, I think worth like a little over $30 million. If this is not going to, like, get you to that quickly. That is very small compared to the money you want. And in all honesty, you probably would make a lot more money if you release the movie. Probably past 100 million, and making that much is not that bad. But no, let's just cancel it and screw everyone over who has worked on this movie. What's even more mind-boggling here too is there's been test screenings of this movie and people love it. right? So this isn't a movie where they think it's going to be a flop because of test screenings. No, people love this movie. They enjoyed it. There were people that were like even big in the industry saying that this movie was great, and it sucks that this movie is being shelved because the company doesn't know how to run themselves in any way. And it's crazy that this keeps happening. Now, I can't speak for Batgirl when it comes to how good the movie was because I don't know much about the test screenings that it had. I'm pretty sure it had test screenings, but I don't know much. And then, of course, like some holiday haunt movie that Scooby Doo was going to release. I don't know about the test screenings on that as well. But it's crazy. It's genuinely crazy to me how they keep doing this. They keep bringing like. Let me just think of it for a second. You have a movie that is potentially going to be loved and people like it because apparently it is actually a good movie according to the test screeners. And then you have people who, or then you have what they will release like Velma, the Velma show, right? They still released that, and that was horrible. What test screeners like that saw the show before it released? What were they saying? Like I doubt they liked it. And if they said they liked it, they definitely got paid to like it. But then at that point, you're paying money for people to say they like a movie or like a show that is bad. Why don't you just like release a show that or a movie that is good for once? And maybe you wouldn't have to spend the money to pay people to do this. What's even worse is then you got the Space Jam 2 movie, which came out likely because the resurgence of Space Jam, and people hated that movie. But it still made good amount of money. Based on its budget, it still made a good amount of money. It made like past $100 million. But that movie was so bad. But they still released it. Like it's crazy to me. Like I just don't get it. Do you think these test screenings would make you be like, okay, we should trust this? But no. Not to mention if you're paranoid about the movie being released on a different streaming service, and that streaming service has that movie be successful, if you're worried about that, then maybe the movie will be successful and you can release it. I'm surprised that we haven't gotten to a point where like someone leaked the movie because we had a situation where the SpongeBob Sandy Cheeks movie or something like that got leaked, and it's not a canceled movie, by the way. This movie is coming out. No one knew about the movie. No one, or not many people knew about the movie. And there wasn't even a trailer for it. But it still got leaked completely. So it was a completely done movie. It got leaked, and I heard like it wasn't bad. I never really looked into it, but apparently it wasn't like a horrible movie. But regardless of that, it's just crazy to me that like no one has ever leaked this specific movie. I think we need to have like so. And I know like this is bad. Like I'm gonna probably like people are gonna get mad at me or Warner Brothers probably gonna get mad at me or any movie company. But I feel like we should have people like I feel like there is like a team on the internet that like would just their goal is to leak movies like this. Because if Warner Brothers isn't going to make them like make money on the movie because they won't release it, then why care? Like I think this movie personally should have like some sort of leak, of course, but I'm not endorsing watching a leaked movie. Don't watch a leaked movie. I just think given people's passion for this, it should be leaked. Given people's passion, all right, based on people's passion for this situation, it should be leaked. But I'm not saying it should. I'm not saying you should leak it. I'm not saying that. Okay, understand. I'm saying just based on what I'm seeing, what people enjoyed about the movie, they or enjoy or not liking the idea this movie is being scrapped. I'm just surprised no one's. You get what I mean. I'm not. I'm not trying to endorse leaking or pirating. Don't pirate. But yeah, don't pirate. But yeah, so this is a sad situation for a lot of the people involved, and what's even crazier is they had like John Cena in this movie. Okay, they had a big name. Already that name alone would probably get a lot of seats. No matter how good or how bad the movie is, it would get a lot of seats. Um, but yeah, this is getting worse, and it's looking like Warner Brothers is dying by the day. Probably gonna get bought out by Disney or something like that. Then we're getting like a Marvel versus DC movie. You want to even know it's even crazier? One last bit of information. This movie was run by James Gunn. Like James Gunn helped run this movie, and he's the one running the DC stuff. And the fact that it's crazy that they're even rejecting like a a movie with James Gunn's involvement. You think he would have trust in what he's made, but apparently not. But that's basically about it on the situation. It sucks that this movie is being taken out. It really, no one deserves this, and it should just be released. Honestly, just release the movie, or let someone pay you so you can release the movie, because this is ridiculous, and having this happen 3 times in a row is sad. But that's basically it. Bye.